Mandela effect for daring air the X-Files live.
Yeah, some people say I'm like the George Norrie of the Mandela effect. And I know he's had some pretty interesting people on there as well.
I thought it was much to do about nothing, and the main question that I thought of when I saw that they had blocked you from doing some live thing is they must have a great deal of interest in you to be watching, with the thousands and thousands of YouTube channels to single you out right before you and block it right before you're fixing to broadcast.
I know it's pretty crazy. It was a big thing. This X-Files. I thought they would like take it down for me later. Instead, they just blocked the whole feed, which was ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
They're getting YouTube is and they're trying as much as they can possibly to snuff out, you know, anything on truth. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what our Mandela effect people are. We're truthers. Isn't that right, Troy?
Yeah, that is correct. Can you hear me?
I'll tell you a recent Mandela effect that was found, and I have to attribute this one to Mr. Evan Powers. Evan Powers found this one. You remember the movie called Studio 54?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's now called just 54.
Just 54.
Yeah, and I know it's a slight change. But to somebody who has that fond memory, it would really upset them. So I can see that totally. Have you had any experiences like that, Paul? I know we've been talking a lot about it, but more on the logos and stuff to that nature. Have you had any personal memories?
In fact, I had a kind of weird thing happen, and I might actually be able to play this, and it's gosh, I don't know if you would call it Mandela, but it's certainly Mandela related. Let's see. I've got where it was.
And let me, while you're digging for that real quick, I just want to make an announcement to everyone here in the live chat who's joining us. I want to thank you for joining today. We've got our dear friend Paul out of Alabama on radio, and I've got Troy out there with me in Hangouts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them, and I'll bring them up for the radio. Okay. So thanks again. So yeah, go ahead. Okay. Sorry about that, Paul. Go ahead.
I'm going to try to see if this will work. Let me turn my feed on here, and hopefully you'll be able to hear this number. It's just a phone number. It's just a phone number, but maybe we can hear it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go back and do that again.
And Troy, by all means, feel free to comment whenever you feel like, okay?
Will do, for sure.
Thanks, buddy.
Here we go again. It may be hard to hear. Okay. Were you able to make out that number? Let me do it one more time.
Can you slow it down, maybe?
On this one, I don't think I can. Okay. It's kind of crackly sounding, but he's the first three digits. He's saying 518. Now this is a guy, a friend of mine that I had literally not seen or talked to in 30 or more years, and he called and left his number. He left that number, and when I went and played my answering machine over, instead of the 518, I was getting 78. I mean, clear as a bell, 78 over and over, and I knew I'm missing a number. So the next day, I asked my wife, I said, just go in there and listen to that. I walked into another room, and just as clear as a bell, I heard 518. I didn't hear 78. And I thought, what? And I went back and listened to it again. I'm getting 718 again. And over and over, I had to literally play it maybe 5 more times before I could, and normally when you mishear something, the first time you hear it correctly, you can't go back to to be incorrect. But this was literally like that part of reality was changing. I guess you'd say before my very ears, because it was a definite 7 and a definite 8 when it was a definitely 5 and a definitely 1 and definitely 8. I mean, I have never had anything in my experience like that, and people are reporting similar things where parts of their reality that's normal changes, and like you say, via the Mandela effect.
Well, we were talking last night. There's a whole nother sector, another effect called the Toto effect.
That's correct.
Isn't that right, Troy?
Yeah, it is. In fact, that was one weird anomaly that I heard about. This has happened prior, according to the new information coming out, and apparently it's been around for quite some time. My thought pattern behind this is this an ME by itself, because I know I would have heard something about something to this effect in the past, somewhere along the lines. I look into different things like that as well, but I've never heard of it. It never registered, ever. So to hear it now that it's been around for quite some time, it was quite shocking. And essentially, it really encompasses a different part of what people are experiencing. For example, like the Mandela effect, it more covers like logos or musical things that are anomalies, whereas the Toto effect really kind of covers geographical changes and history anomalies and things like that. So it's almost like the divide between the two sectors of people that are experiencing some kind of memory change, or in that sense. So essentially, it's dividing the Mandela in half.
I had not heard of that. I wanted to ask y'all too. I made a little list, and it's like when I was talking to Mark Sargent of Flat Earth Fame. I said, let's try to talk today, maybe about questions that you don't normally get, because when Mark talks about Flat Earth, he basically has to go over the same information again and again and again, because typically people that or interviewers that he talked to aren't familiar too much with his work. But I did want to talk a little about, and I'm hesitant to say the dark side, but a kind of a different side. There are people.
I know how you feel.
Died in 2012 and et cetera, and things of that nature. But one thing somebody said, and I don't think I have mentioned this to you, Brian, but it really took me aback, and it really added a little validity to what this YouTuber has been talking about lately. Back about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I ran into a guy, and he's been on my show a couple of times. He lives here locally. He's had as many as, I believe, 3 radio shows running at the same time dealing with Bible study. He's very well versed.
Hold on. Let me get Troy in here, okay? Hold on.
I'm right here.
I mean, Ty. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Sorry, guys.
Hey, Paul, it's funny that you're saying that, because prior, the personal experiences are the ones that really kind of hit you hard. You can see a lot of things, technologically, those are kind of hard to place with me, because again, if something is messing around with technology, they can change pretty much any information that you're getting. When it becomes more close to home, like the body anatomy, seeing animals firsthand that you've never seen or have changed altogether, or even like locations. And I'll give you an example. My son and his mom, they live in San Clemente, and they've got a school right behind them. And the thing is that I've been to this little school. It has a giant like grassy area, and I've must have gone into this place maybe over a few dozen times. The fly is drone. I know this place like the back of my hand. I know it very well. Well, it was just yesterday evening when I was getting ready to do one of Brian's shows. I always go out into the little park area. It's just really kind of serene and, just a little place to break away, because I don't like talking about this in front of my son either. Just for him, it's just not appropriate. But that being said, as I walk back here, and lo and behold, there's a baseball field that's apparently always been here. Like the little back area, the fences that have, that catch the balls from flying away and stuff. It's been here apparently for a long time. I've never seen this thing. It just emerged, which was a total shock, because again, I've walked this thing for a long time, and just now seeing it, and a couple days prior, it just wasn't there. There's just no way they could have put this thing together.
That's wild. Ty has just joined us. Ty, I'm sorry, we're live now. Good to have you aboard. So
yeah, thank you.
Glad you can make it. So what do you think about what's said so far? I mean, about what Troy was talking about with the baseball field. Have you had that experience before at all? Like,
are you talking with me, Brian?
Yeah, I'm talking to you, Ty. Yeah.
Yes, I do not have that specific thing, because I am not in the area that I grew up in. I'm not familiar with this. Like, I only have a few years experience in the area, such that it's tough for me to have those type of effects, because if I go back to the area that I grew up in or I was raised in, I can't ask anybody, because it all looks different to me. You see, it's been too many years. So everything that I have is personal effects.
Well, I have something to ask real quick, guys. First of all, let's get everybody talking about Australia. What's the capital of Australia? Does anyone know? Without looking it up.
Well, I know what it is now. I definitely know what it is now, and but I know what it was then as well.
I know. And I got
the capital. You want me to say it?
Wait. Let everybody talk about it. So,
okay.
Paul, what's the capital of Australia?
I always thought it was Sydney. I don't know.
That's what I thought too.
That's what it was. That's what it was. It was always Sydney.
It was, and I talked to Liz about that. Liz lived there for some time in Australia. She lived there, and she remembers it being Sydney for sure, 100%. So that tells you something. And and who has ever heard of Canberra? It's like out in the middle of nowhere,
Now, what is the capital?
Canberra. Canberra is the capital. We have M-Town in the chat says Melbourne. So I can understand Melbourne or Sydney, but definitely not Canberra, and that's what it is now.
Yeah, definitely. I have to agree with you guys. I've never heard of it. I've never heard of Canberra in my recollection. I don't have any recollection of that. Hey, Brian.
No, and a lot of people don't, but a lot of people that actually hear it as well, Paul, is that you'll hear it, you'll know it's not right, but the reaction to it is kind of like, oh, okay, well, your first gut reaction, and this is the case with a lot of different things too. The gut reaction is to say the right thing, but then it's the rationalizing and, oh, okay, well, I guess that's what it is now. With with really no concern that something has supernaturally changed. Just it's business as usual.
Right. Brian, I was talking about the guy that has been doing a lot of videos on. He said it's more of a thought experiment, but this is what happened to me. I was going back to the guy who had the Bible study radio shows. I known him for quite a while. And I said, let me ask you a question. What animal laid down with the lamb, in the Bible? And he, of course, said the lion. Now, here's the part.
Wow.
Here's the part. Pay attention to. I said, well, if you go to any Bible now, no matter how old it is, it's not going to be lion. It's going to be wolf. Now, that should have been like a slap in the face. That should have been, oh, you're kidding. But his reaction is...
Yes, his reaction.
His reaction is what was problematic for me. He said, you know, without blinking an eye, he said, you know, I think I saw a wolf in my backyard the other day. He completely
ignored it. Yes, yes. Wait. We have
different direction.
Paul, we have a term for that. What is it, Ty? What do we call that? Ty, you there?
I'll address that. It's called the Mr. Smith syndrome.
We relate to that as known as the Mr. Smith paradox.
Paradox, yeah.
Mr. Smith paradox. That's right. When they totally avoid it, they avoid the question altogether.
Well, what simply repeat what they have heard, or they avoid it completely, like you did say anything at all. Yeah, that was it. It was like I had, and it was such a bizarre reaction. Now, what this guy that has been talking about, we died 2012, et cetera, et cetera. He says this point, which I don't totally agree with, but I don't totally disagree with, and I want y'all's opinion on this.
Okay.
He said that if we live in a simulation, which a lot of people, including myself, believe, that there are some people who, for one reason or another, or let's say do not have souls, or they had a connection with God when they were born, now they don't have a connection with God, and they're basically simulation material that is adapted for the rest of us to interact with. And he said many of those people, and I can understand this, many of those people are in positions of very high power, because many of those people are psychotic. They don't have morals because they don't have a spirit in them, and they can do anything without it really bothering them. And that when you bring up these things like the Mandela effect, they're going to blow it off or kick it down, because their job is to convince you that the reality that you see is real and correct. And, that's part of the quote unquote the devil's plan to keep us in a physicality. And if that is the case, I know this is long-winded, if that is the case, could some of the Mandela effect be God's little nudge as saying, look, everything you see isn't exactly real. Jesus said he wanted to be in the earth, but not of the earth. And they talked about God knowing us before we were born, and when we're saved, we're born again. I just thought that was very interesting. What do y'all think?
I like what you just said. That was amazing. I feel like, yes, we are reborn, it seems. It's like we've been it's like everything that we know in the Bible is actually seeming like it's coming true, isn't it? Is it not feeling like it's coming true now?
Well, it's the Bible that we remember, because nowadays the Bible has been supernaturally changed. So, certainly the new version is not, what I recall it being. So, it's now really based on what you remember, because a lot of people nowadays, they recall things exactly as it is, and if you point certain things out, their gut reaction will be to point the things out that were, but then it's the rationalizing and then, moving forth. Like it's normal.
Well, if God is doing this or allowing this, you would think he would want his people to know it. And what better way than to have changes in the Bible? Because for a true Bible believer, they're going to stick out like a sore thumb. And if you're not really a Bible believer, but you still profess to be, you're either not going to see them or you're going to deny them.
Well, Paul, you said it right. It was prophesied a long time ago, in the Bible that this right here was going to be an occurrence, and that there would be a few people, that'd be just, not just a handful of people, so to speak, that would actually see it. But the majority of people will not see it.
Right.
That lends itself to so many additional theories, like the light warriors, the 144,000. The chosen ones, so to speak, that follow the bloodline of Enoch and Noah. You know, and there's a whole bunch of different speculation. So it's really open to, you know, a lot of different theories, but it can be a compilation of things. I mean, it's really hard to pinpoint because there's so many different factors that could be playing a role here.
Well,
Sure.
I know, and Discover Magazine did a article on this actually February 16th around this time last year. You know, basically calling it collective false memories. You know, what's behind
Yep.
Mandela? You know, they talked about the Mandela. Why is it on like all the news articles? Everyone you see basically is trying to hush it up. They're trying to keep us quiet about it.
Hey, Brian, real quick.
Yeah.
You notice right toward the end of the X-Files, what did Skinner say? Where are they taking Reggie? I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, he looks in the ambulance and says, "Where are they taking Reggie?" Right, which meant to say that maybe that Reggie wasn't crazy because Skinner knew who he was. Right. They didn't go on with that, but they never explained the Jello, and they kind of explained maybe the Twilight Zone, you know, episode that wasn't really a Twilight Zone. But I really, when I watched it twice, and the first time I was kind of disappointed because I thought they were making a lot of fun, but there were a lot of subtleties. The biggest subtlety to me was Dr. Bay. Remember what he was doing when he came out? He was doing the finger, shame, shame, shame. And then he said, it doesn't matter about the truth. Nobody believes the truth. We can say anything we want to. And I think he was very accurate on that because we are so brainwashed. They're not trying to hide this. If some sinister force is behind it, they're not trying to hide it.
Yeah, well, we talk all the time about Bible changes. You know, in fact, we have a special guest, Meeks B, that comes on with us every Friday night, and she talks about some of the changes, the new stuff that she finds. Well, I mean, probably the biggest change that I've seen besides Isaiah 11:6 is the debts and debtors. It used to be trespasses. Forgive us our trespasses, we forgive those trespass against us. Is forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And you know, like you were saying, you go back to all the old stuff, the old Bibles and everything, and it just changed. You know, I think it freaks people out sometimes with the effect so much that they don't. It's too painful, and they try to avoid it. Maybe, you know.
Well, that's a possibility too. I mean, there's so many other things too, Paul, that are depicted in the Bible now. You know, now it's painting Jesus himself to be a jihadist transvestite, which is absolutely, you know, contrary to what it used to be.
Oh yeah. Well,
go ahead, Paul.
Everything that we used to consider good is bad, and everything that we used to consider bad is good. It's
a flip-flop.
Flip-flop.
And you know, here's the thing, and it's painful, and it does emotionally hurt us very badly, and you know, and you know, a lot of us are just confused right now. You know, we want to know what's going on, and you know, it feels like a death at times, and like, I mean, it feels like we're swapping timelines all the time, it seems, and our families are not even our families. Troy can go on and on about that.
Yeah,
without definitely love, you know, what is a family anyway, right?
Well, I think basically what it seems to me is that, you know, we've all found each other for a reason, and if it does ring true that the bloodline of Enoch, you know, is you know, within us, I guess then we are technically a family, right?
Yeah, and Paul, you brought up last time, I think, the theory of everything. Who was that author?
Yeah, Tom Campbell.
Tom Campbell, yeah.
Tom Campbell, and I will just say something real quick for it because I heard something else that goes along with that, but I really like it in a little in a way better. This guy's way of visualizing the way he thought we were is we're basically smartphones connected to an information system, but reality is the Wi-Fi that we interpret. And I thought that kind of made it pretty clear to me.
Yes.
And that kind of goes back to, you know, our are we connected to God or higher power or the program or whatever you want to call it in a way that some people might not be, and not putting us ahead or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, are our eyes more opened?
They would have to be, because we are intrigued by it. It's almost like that whole what is it, like the mouse that fears the trap, but he likes checking it out. I don't know. Is it a trap? I sometimes wonder, what is behind the Mandela effect. I wonder all the time, actually, what's causing it. We always have to say they whenever we talk to people, but they ask who are they, and I think that's why they brought up Dr. They and to kind of play around with that term a little bit in that show. I don't know if you know, Paul, but there is a movie coming out in 2018. I'm not sure. We haven't been given the date yet. Probably summer release, but it's a movie about the Mandela effect, and hopefully it will give us some kind of resonance that we could resonate to. You know what I'm saying? Because this last one with the X-Files was just made to be a comedy, and it kind of like put the Mandela effect in a little bit of a bad light.
Well, I think that, but here's the other thing too with that. They say there's no such thing as bad publicity. Mm-hmm. It got the name out, and it's going to start conversations. So from that standpoint, I'm glad they did it rather than not. Yeah. And I want to commend you too, Brian, and I'm sure some other people are doing this with the Mandela meetups. I think that's a great idea. It has worked well for Flat Earth. And to me, it's a triad. I mean, I got into Flat Earth, got into Mandela, got into simulation, and there's a coherence between the three in my mind, and they all kind of fit to me. But if Mandela can do what Flat Earth has been doing successfully, they will be way ahead in getting the message out.
Well, and it's funny now because a lot more people are tending to lean that way. I mean, factually, if you take a look at it, it makes more sense than us kind of spinning around in some giant orb. Just the facts outweigh the alternative. And even biblically, it even says, I mean, if you follow the Bible, which everything seems to be following in sync. At least with the way that it used to be, anyhow, it did depict, the world as we know it, being covered by a firmament.
Yeah, and the deal and talking with Mark Sargent. And by the way, if you want to see any of those interviews, you can just Google 1490 Radio Alabama Flat Earth, and the three that I've done that he's put on YouTube will pull right up. But we talk not just about Flat Earth. We talked about different things like we're talking about different things. But Mark has a history of being making video games, video programmer. Oh, okay. And he said, whenever you start with virtual reality, you start on a flat plane because it's basically conservation of energy or programming or whatever. And, it's one of those things, and it's like the old question, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a noise? And the answer currently now by quantum physics is no, it doesn't make a noise because it doesn't exist. If there's no observer there, it's not rendered and it doesn't exist.
Yes, and that kind of goes along with that whole double slit experiment. I know we talk about it a lot, but for your listeners and for some of the people just joining up, double slit experiment, basically electrons will flow through either one slit or the other in two slits, right? Well, as soon as there's an observer, it only goes through one path, or it only goes through one definite path. It's really weird.
Well, you know, and what it was is it actually split into four. Is what if you looked at the you know, basically the basic version of it, which is if you look at it, it then splits into keeps its double slit formation. If you don't look at, or excuse me, if you look at it, you know, then it's going to go back to the two. If you don't, it will actually split into four different patterns. So that's kind of the double slit quantum, you know, I guess effect in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So if you're not looking at it, it's gonna divide into more. It's gonna do whatever it wants. But the moment that you notice that it's doing that, it's gonna go back to its normal pattern. It's gonna shift on you.
They've actually scaled that up now. They say to tiny little itty bitty rocks, pieces of matter that act like a wave if they're not observed, and the minute you observe them, they're a particular pattern. You know, it's crazy. It's all this stuff is crazy, and the biggest crazy part about it is things like quantum entanglement that disobeys the speed of light. But all of this works in a simulation. That's the long and short of it for me.
Well, I think the thing that interests me the most is the observer effect, and I know we talked about that before too. I'm trying to find the disambiguation so I can explain it a little bit better, but it's also known as the Hawthorne effect. See, I'm looking for some tests. Basically, actually, it was talked about on Star Trek Enterprise.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Oh, and the famous line, which I know you've covered in your videos, "Beam me up, Scotty," never existed. Is that correct?
Oh.
That's such a downer. Oh.
I know. I've asked the people who don't even believe in the effect. Do you remember "Beam Me Up, Scotty" was said on Star Trek? And they say, yeah. And I say, okay, well, show me where you can find it now.
That, and also, like, you know, if any of the listeners out there, you know I Love Lucy. I mean, you also have the famous phrase of Lucy, you got a lot of explaining to do.
Got some explaining to do.
Yeah.
That was never said.
Or about what if I told you,
Oh.
Neo, that none of this is real? That's gone from the Matrix.
Or how about this? Remember Lost in Space, the robot, warning, danger, danger. That was only said one time. And his arms weren't flailing wildly like they were depicted as.
I used to watch that show live, and I can guarantee you he said it nearly about every episode.
Yeah, Danger Will Robinson.
Danger Will Robinson, yep, exactly. And now it says one time, and his arms were barely moving at the time. They were just kind of just going up and down a little bit.
Paul, while I got you on that, do you remember Bubbleheaded Ninny or Bubbleheaded Booby?
Oh gosh,
The famous Dr. Smith line.
Yeah, I can't say, Brian.
I could swear up and down. He said Bubbleheaded Ninny. I used to joke around about it all the time.
That sounds correct to me.
And it's Booby. They would not have said Booby back then.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
Well, you know, and it's across the board. I mean, literally, Paul, there are thousands of different anomalies in all different areas. I mean, we're talking historical even. You know, one of the things that we covered a while back, a couple things actually, was the Hindenburg. You know, that was the footage. You know, the footage you see nowadays is completely different from the way that I remember it. You know, I mean, it really has a whole different look to it. You know, they're dropping ballasts. People actually survived before when this thing actually went down. No one survived. This thing was like a giant bomb in the sky that was collapsing. And in fact, it actually it was depicted even on the Led Zeppelin album where the nose was taking a dive. Now it's the back end that actually hits first. You know, that thing, and not just that, but how about this? Here's another thing as well. Take a look at the Abe Lincoln. Let's go back to Abe Lincoln. John Wilkes Booth. You know, he was the guy that obviously assassinated Abe Lincoln, shot him in the back of the head. So that kind of follows suit with the memory. But the reality is that it wasn't just John Wilkes Booth that was convicted of the murder. Now there's an additional 8 people, 4 of them which were hung, and one of them was also a woman. 4 others were then sentenced to life. But check this out. Here's the real kicker. John Wilkes Booth's mummy was then taken on tour across America.
Well, there was a documentary not real long ago that speculated that John Wilkes Booth actually got away, and that whoever was shot wasn't him. I don't know. So who?
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't hear that one.
I meant to tell you, Paul. We have the Matrix is in the Bible. The word Matrix.
Yeah.
That's really weird, and it's to mean what it means is womb. Like we're like childbirth, where a child is born from, and it's called the Matrix now in the Bible.
Yeah. Well, there's so many other depictions now. They're saying couch, they're saying stuff, they're having smiley face icons in there. There's so many different things that are inserted. It's just
I wanted to bring the chat. Sorry, Troy. I wanted to mention some people from the chat. Dawn P is here. M Towns is here. And Dawn P says, Luke, I'm your father. How many people remember that?
Of course.
I think virtually everybody remembers it. It's been said across, there's even like a section, I think it's from Tommy Boy or Black Sheep, where Chris Farley speaks into the fan. He says, Luke, I am your father. I've done that before too.
I mentioned that to a surgeon, and he's a younger guy, but he's a big Star Wars fan. And of course he said, the line, Luke, I'm your father. I said, no, never in. He immediately looked it up on his smartphone and walked away and never spoke of it again. So, what is that?
That's common. That's common. That's not that. In fact, you see that quite a bit, and then they'll get angry.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He just walked away.
I know that it's this Mr. Smith complex. we have another person just join our chat. Hey, what's up, Vanna Rose? What's going on? So I come across this thing on the internet about the observer effect. More on it about the observer. The ideal observer is one who causes no unnecessary perturbations to the system being observed. An observation made by such an observer is called an objective observation. And in physics and chemistry, we routinely assume that our observations are objective. But reality seldom, if ever, provides us with ideals. The real observer always causes an unnecessary perturbation of some kind. So scientists must remain alert in their efforts to minimize the magnitudes of these perturbations or disturbances. So to the extent which they succeed determines the level of confidence they can claim in the results, and therefore they certainly the certainty that they can expect in the knowledge of things. But see, in the 20th century, physics was forced into the position of reevaluating the role of the observer. And in quantum mechanics, the observer and the system being observed became mysteriously linked, it says, so that the results of any observation seem to be determined in part by actual choices made by the observer. This situation is represented by the wave function, and a function in the complex domain that contains information about both the cosmos at large and the observer's apparent state of knowledge. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely a fascinating thing. The Mandela effect kind of ties. It's like I've been calling it the mother of all conspiracies, because it proves that something is being altered. Our reality, our construct. Some people like to call it a construct or a framework. Something has been altered. That's all I'm trying to say. Sorry.
Well, and Paul, it's funny you say this about the guy that you had mentioned, the Star Wars thing to the Luke, I am your father. It's kind of strange that, once we make a comment or mention alluding to the Mandela effect or the changes, the reactions that we've been getting, the Mr. Smith, thing here, it really brings out, I guess the person underneath, inside that really doesn't want to hear exactly what the truth is. And their first reaction, in a lot of cases is dismissal and rationalizing. And in some cases, even you get the anger that's underneath it, and they're telling you to basically knock it off. There was an incident recently with a friend of mine who was in a relationship for quite some time, and he started noticing these things, and essentially noticed that all the people around him weren't the people that he recalled. Well, he ended up taking his life because he just couldn't deal with it any longer. So it's a very serious issue, that's going on, and it's you got to choose your audience in a certain respect as to who's who you're going to approach, and it's almost our duty to let people know exactly what's going on. But there's a certain way that you have to broach the subject and approach it.
Yeah, the approach. Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
On that, I didn't used to, but I kind of agree a little bit with Mark Sargent's view of flat Earth. He said, view it as Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is not to mention Fight Club. I think if you're around,
I like that.
I think if you're around people and the Holy Spirit, leads you to do that, but to just something, just pick somebody at random and say something, I think it's going to slap you in the face every time.
I don't suggest it either, mentioning it to your coworkers out there for all of you. Because they may let you go, what the AI might do.
It could be a really bad experience for a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong. The way that I broach it is by simple trivia. If they answer certain things that don't follow suit with your own timeline, accept it, because the reality is either it really is their timeline, that's the way it really occurred, or they're just, you're not going to get through them no matter what. But I do think it's our duty to let people know that there is some kind of anomaly going on. And I think that is something that we have to make people aware of. And we have to be here, especially for the people that are really reaching out, because in that scenario that I just mentioned, this could be something that could be detrimental to a lot of people.
Yeah, but, it is kind of like fishing. Just because, you got to get a nibble before you can get a hook. There'll be somebody at work that I know rather well. I know it's not going to get mad at me. And I was like, hey, do you remember in Snow White, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's first? Oh, yeah, I remember that. No, you don't. Never was said. It was magic mirror. Now,
well, in fact, I believe that's changed now, too. Didn't they say something slave mirror? I think that's changed again.
Not going to buy anything else.
Yeah, I think it's now slave in the mirror.
But the biggest thing is, why is there all this residue left behind? I think Teresa had some residue for me for Studio 54. Residue where it actually says Studio 54 on a poster, like director's cut. See, let me share this with you guys real quick. Because residue is very important. It's like, and we see the residue sometimes change in front of our eyes. We talk about that too, where stuff is being rewritten, and apparently it's like in the middle of changing, where it doesn't quite change just yet, but then the following day it might be something totally different. And then we have people.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
I know we have people waking up one day speaking a totally different language. There's a foreign language syndrome that's going on with people too. And
we should be clear on this too, because look, there's a bunch of different theories. You've got CERN, you got D-Wave, you have Kindred. There's a few others that I'm sure I don't know about. Technologically, I can totally see the fact that they could change the technology that you're looking at. Now the alternative to that is you're also experiencing global continental shifts. You're then also experiencing anatomy changes. You have animals that exist that never existed before in all different configurations. Like, you have vampire deer. You've got snakes that have, smiley face emojis on them, purple squirrels, orange crocodiles, pink elephants. And, it just goes on and on. So there's obviously something more to it, and the main kicker is biblically, to have something supernaturally changing your very own Bible. That's certainly alarming. So you got to consider all factors in this whole anomaly here.
Oh yeah, is Trey still there? Is Trey there?
Yeah, that's me.
Troy?
I'm Troy.
No, is Troy was there a Trey?
Ty? You mean
Oh,
Ty?
Ty.
Ty.
I don't know what happened.
Ty there?
I don't know what happened. I think it might have been a signal fade. I'm gonna try to get him back in here so we can have him talk a little bit too, because I feel like
Brian, what I wanted to run by you, and like I say, I think some of the things that are working for Flat Earth would work very well with Mandela. One thing, Mark Sargent is going to pretty soon. I need to find out. He is going to have a debate with some graduate students at, I think, the University of Georgetown, and then he's going to do like by proxy or questions sent back and forth with some physicist. And Eric Dubay, who's another big flat earther, well, among other things, I understood, I don't know if this is true or not, but I understood he was going to debate Neil deGrasse Tyson. I would love for you and Teresa, with all her residue, to go up against these psychologists that says it's just all faulty memory.
Yes.
Because faulty memory does not explain it at all.
Yes, especially a major collective, community, that are experiencing the same exact memories.
Yep, and you've seen that, Paul. You bought one of my T-shirts, and it says "false memories, then explain the residue."
Yeah, right. You can't, and everybody wouldn't have the same false memory. It's just like we've got a Monopoly game at work. And everybody asked, said, "Oh yeah, the Monopoly guy's got the monocle." And I said, "See how he is on this box?" He said, "Well, it's a new box." I said, "No, it's always been that way." And I said, psychologists say that in your brain, you're taking the monocle off of Mr. Peanut and putting it on the Monopoly guy. I think it's Mr. Pennybags or whatever his name is. And they say the same thing I did. Said, "I don't know Mr. Peanut. How could I take a monocle off a character I don't even know?"
That's so weird.
Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. There's Teresa just sent me some residue. Teresa Lynch is my residue hunter. She's in the audience, and she sent me some residue on Ford's Garage. Do you guys remember the Ford logo? Listeners out there, do you remember the Ford logo, how it used to look? Do you remember it having looks like a curly Q or pig's tail in the F?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
No, it didn't used to have it. It's got a pigtail now.
Yeah, it has one now. But here's residue that Teresa sent me. There's this place called Ford's Garage that imitates the logo almost exactly as we remember it. The R and the D are not connected. The O and the R are joined, but that's fine. The F has a straight bar through it.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that weird?
There were some pictures of some Ford products that were castings, and they were done correctly. But the Ford logo came from Henry Ford's signature, and Henry Ford's signature was the correct way. It never had the pigtail and the other things you mentioned. Like I say, that particularly made me irritated because I used to sell Fords. I've always had Fords. I got out one Sunday afternoon, rolled up and down the valley looking for old Ford because I figured it had to be a recent change. Ended up looking at a Model A and an old Ford truck from the 20s, and both of them had the pigtails in the logo. So it really.
Well, speaking of like the pigtails, they say the Wendy's girl never had some people say she used to have braids, and now she doesn't.
Well, they were on the top of her head before, they kind of jutted out, and now they're lower on her head.
I thought didn't they have commercials? I remember the first commercial, it was a bunch of people running toward a cliff or something like that. I could sworn she had braids in her hair.
Well, yeah, I thought she did too.
The Wendy's girl.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, that was one of the owner's daughters. Was who that was supposed to be? I think she's still alive. He died with a heart attack, I believe.
Well, and here's another one for a lot of people that don't that can't see it right in front of them. you know, a lot of people have currency, you know, at least a dime on them, I would imagine. You know, from what I recall on the dime, you know, Eisenhower was always the president that was depicted on that dime.
I remember the Eisenhower dimes.
Yep. And if you look at it now, nope, it's not.
And I'm just a different. I always remember Roosevelt. So
okay,
it's different. It's different with different people. Like the little island that was supposed to be off the west coast of Australia that showed up in
Tanzania.
Used in an episode of Andy Griffith. I never remember that, but some people do remember. I think, I think we're having
a multi-universe type of merge, different recollections. And it's funny you say that because there's also people out there that remember 52 states as well.
Right. If you're going along with what Agent Mulder was saying in X-Files in the episode we just saw, Agent Mulder believed in the multiple worlds or multiple parallel universes reality.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Scully was the skeptic.
That would explain some of it, I would suppose. And Brian, you remember buying a Stairway to Heaven. You remember building
and she's building a stairway to heaven. I remember that.
Yeah. But
I remember buying. For me, it was always buying the Stairway of Heaven. But
there is,
again, there's just different, different timelines that are actually merging at the same time. Where in your timeline or realities, that's exactly what it was. I mean, it's undeniable.
How many people remember Dolly from having braces? In fact,
double Blade Runner.
No, I'm talking about Dolly having braces. Dawn P mentions. In fact, we have somebody that comes on in our live chat, and their name is Dolly had braces. So yeah, Dolly for me. In what was the name of that, Troy? The name of that was 007 something or other.
I want to say Blade Runner.
No, it was 007. It was a James Bond movie.
Oh yeah.
Guys, help me out in the audience.
It wasn't Blade Runner. It was
was it Goldfinger?
No, not Goldfinger.
Not Goldfinger. It was a James Bond though. Come on, guys. You win a prize. Come on. Moonraker. Thank you, M Towns.
Moonraker. That's it.
Yay.
Yep.
Moonraker, but Dolly had braces. Yes, and there was even a commercial that they did imitating that. And what is it now? Just the guy has braces and the girl doesn't.
Yeah, Jaws.
Yeah, Jaws.
Jaws.
And that was the connection. That was the connection between the two because they both had braces at the time. I mean, it was it was one of those things that was a perfect connect. It kind of turned him into a nice guy. He met a nice girl to tame him down. So it wasn't such a, you know what I mean?
How about let's talk about Chick-fil-A because I worked there for 3.5 years and it was CHICFILA.
Yep, that's how it was for me.
And all my paycheck stubs changed, my name tag changed, and even my boss. And I even talked to a woman that I worked there with. She worked there for 23 years now, and even she was shocked. I talked to her. One day I was on my lunch break and I called her and talked to her finally because some people they try to avoid the subject, but she says she remembers it up and down and she was shocked. Like she noticed it on the floor mats. She's like, no way. I mean, the whole time she remembered it Chick with a C, and then it's like she received the upgrade, and then after she got shocked, it's like, oh, it's always been like that. So I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. And then my boss, my former boss from Chick-fil-A, I tried to get an interview with him. I did interview with someone who was one of our loyal customers because there's people that go in and out of there all the time because they're loyal to Chick-fil-A. And so I asked him. I said, I pulled him for a live interview. He did it, thankfully, and he remembered Chick-fil-A with a C. Isn't that crazy? My boss admitted to it, but he wouldn't do a live thing. I know. It's disconcerting.
Let me ask y'all this too, because I do shows on different topics, and one of my favorite topics to do shows on is glitches in the Matrix, and that seems to be a more common occurrence.
You just stole the words right out of my mouth. Actually, me and Teresa were just talking about that earlier. Glitches in the Matrix. That's what it is. It's literally a glitch in the Matrix.
And you know, it's just like on a small scale, the problem I was having understanding between a 5-1 and getting a 7 out of it somehow. You know, I've talked to people who said, you know, I was watching this plane or a bird and it just disappeared. I've got, you know, the guy that did the paranormal mini conference with us, he did a story about a man who had, I believe spent a night in he and his family in this wonderful old theme hotel. I mean, it didn't have electricity and everything was wonderful. And they left and went about 15 miles down the road, and they were talking about it. The waitress overheard him and said, "What hotel was that?" And he mentioned the name, and she said, "That burned down like 60 years ago, and it was abandoned before it burned down." And they actually went back to the hotel, and it was just rubble. They took pictures of it, and the pictures didn't even come out. But it was he said that it came from a very reliable source, but that's a big glitch.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard things like that too.
Yeah, I talked to a lady. I mean, she is straight up, no nonsense. She's a nurse. I mean, no nonsense, no kidding around. She's coming through Auburn, Alabama a couple of years ago, on her way somewhere on a street that was not well traveled at that time of day. Look to her right, and she sees a group of what she considered at the time Civil War reenactment actors. You know, they had the Union soldiers, but she said she looked close and they were just like dead tired. I mean, just dragging and ragged looking. And one of them in front, his eyes caught her eyes, and she said immediately they were gone. They just disappeared. And there's stories and stories and stories, and they're becoming more and more frequent. So, you know, my question to y'all would be: Is Mandela part of the fabric of time changing or breaking down, perhaps?
I don't know, Brian. What you want to answer that?
It's a good question. I know Laszlo was on last night. I Am Laszlo came on, and he's got quite good many subs, and he was on talking with us, and he seems to believe that, you know, we might be approaching something. I mean, we're definitely he seems to believe that we're going into a singularity type thing. We're going to be leaving this world soon, and he told me 2023 is a prediction. I don't know. I hate to put a certain time frame on things.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to really to do that.
I don't want to be a fearmonger. I don't want to be known as a fearmonger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I certainly don't discount that CERN may
be responsible.
Responsible for all, or at least part of it. And I think you had a guest on one time who said probably some of this has been going on all along, and it's just, like you say, little glitches in the matrix, but because of the internet and communication, it's more noticed now. But it seems to me the people who are noticing it much more frequently than even 5 years ago.
There was a question that, or rather a comment that was mentioned, or I guess it was actually a question. I forget exactly who said it, but it was actually really interesting to hear it, which was, if we didn't have the internet, do you think that we would notice the Mandela effect?
I probably would not have noticed. I would have been asleep. I thank people like Moneybag73 for waking me up. And who's the other girl that slaps her face saying she shook? Michelle Plotty. Both of those two kind of woke me up. What woke you up, Paul?
I'm not sure. I just kind of got into it. I got in. I can't remember if I got into Flat Earth and then Mandela and then Flat Earth, but they both rang true, and it was one of those things that this can't be right. And then you look at it and you say, yeah, it is. So I don't know if it was any one thing. The Ford logo bothered me the most, and then the things like Mirror, Mirror, and Luke, I Am Your Father, and
yes.
I didn't really know about the Bernstein Bears. But
I was wondering, Paul, did you get to watch my video I did when I was in Savannah last weekend visiting with my kids? I did the reenactment, and there were like 50 people watching me.
I wanted to see that. I didn't get. I was trying to record the little.
Hold on, let's see if I can bring that up.
Thing on the X-Files that you had, and my battery died in the middle of it.
Oh, of course, that's the AI. The AI working against it, man. That's the way it is. Let's see.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I hate that your kids weren't allowed to see that. I know it was.
Well, not the video portion, but they were there. My daughter and my son were there.
Oh, good.
Oh, look at that.
Good.
AI crashing it. I'll play it for you guys.
The thing that gets me is that, look, at the crux of it, let's go biblically here. If there's all these changes that we're recognizing, in the Bible, why aren't there more, pastors and priests and churches that are speaking out about this? It's just non-existent. Nobody wants to say anything about it
because they just seem to think it's a translation issue. Because they only stick to the King James, and therefore, they think it's probably different in another translation. That's what it is. But if you look,
that's what I've heard them say. But then I will say specifically, no. If you go to the Bible that's on your shelf, that's been there for 50 years, it has changed. So whether they just got this block. What I don't know.
I don't know either.
I think they really, they keep going back to translations. And you say no, your Bible has physically changed. The one you've had in the closet for 100 years, it's physically changed.
All right, so here's this scene that we did on the park bench. I went to.
Hello.
I went to the same park bench at Chippewa Park.
My name's Forrest. You want a chocolate? I could eat about 1.5 million of these.
I figured we redo it.
Mom always said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, now you saw that, or you heard it. The guy who was there with me, I did not tell him to do that. He said it right along with me. Life is like a box of chocolates, and I didn't even ask him about the Mandela.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
How long ago was that video?
That was about a week ago. It was last Saturday. I was in Savannah.
Yeah. Look, I'm gonna get a better feed on this end and go ahead and see if I can't hear it.
Can you hear okay?
Yeah, it should. You should be able to hear it over here. It should come in maybe. Hello, my name's Forrest. Forrest Gump. You want a chocolate? I could eat about 1.5 million of these. Mom always says, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
That's the way most of us remember it.
Oh yeah, that's fun. Bullshit. I bet you can walk all day and not even feel a thing.
Troy, you there?
Yeah, we're here. Yeah, I got you know, I guess bad reception or whatever.
I bet if I think real hard, I can remember my first pair of shoes. Mama said they'd take me anywhere. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So anyway, somebody was telling me yesterday about this movie called Maze Runner. Is it any good? I heard it deals with parallel worlds or something.
Maze Runner?
Yeah.
Oh, Maze Runner? Yeah, I've seen that.
Was it good?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's just you know, a core group of people that have been you know, taken from their, I guess, you know, original, you know, home and or their land, whatever, and they've been replaced in some maze world, and they're trying to find their way out, but they encounter a bunch of you know, scary beasts and creatures and traps and all, like, you know, changing mazes and stuff. It's
what does that sound like to you? That also sounds like that movie Jumanji where they end up in a simulation.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a simulation. It's actually real. At least, you know, as far as the movie is concerned, it's not real in real life here. But.
Paradox. A real simulation.
No, but it's good. It's you know, it's a good watch. It's fun.
Great.
Yeah, I wouldn't you know, I wouldn't compare it to, you know, the Mandela effect by any means, or you know, any of the Toto effect or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's you know, I mean, it's just being displaced and challenging the people to essentially make their way out. It's an ongoing you know, movie series that that you know, kind of puts them in different scenarios.
Paul, one question that I had. Thanks, Troy. One question that I had for you, Paul, because you work with media. Have you tried to approach anyone in the mainstream media about the Mandela without, you know, without getting the boot?
No. Well, I've approached a couple of TV channels in Columbus, one in LaGrange, the local paper here. You know, it's and really, and I'll say this, and not in a critical way,
yeah,
but totally in a critical way. Like when I had Mark Sargent on, I said, you know, and because Flat Earth is getting to be a big thing. It was covered by the Denver Post. They had their big meeting in, I think it was Charlotte, back in November, I think, and it was a sold out event. And Mark actually did like 14 interviews, got a lot of press. And, you know, I said, you know, give this guy a call. You know, he'd be glad. And I would tell him the same thing about you. Give him a call. And he said, well, you know, send me some information. But basically, that to them is not news. But if somebody grows a tomato that looks like Bear Bryant, that's a front page.
Yeah, top of the list.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. I mean, an idea that can actually change the way you think about reality is not news, but a disfigured tomato is, you know, everybody wants to know about. Yeah. That maze run is the death cure, and it came, I think it's just been released. In fact, it's showing locally here. If anybody's interested, at the Tiger and the classic Auburn Theater and the Carmack in LaGrange. So if you want to see it, you can go see that.
Somebody else in the chat was saying, M Towns was saying Labyrinth. It's like the movie Labyrinth, sort of. You know, where that girl, she kind of wishes that she makes a wish kind of wrong and wishes her baby brother away, and then she goes through this maze and, you know, ends up getting her baby brother back, but the hard way.
That's David Bowie, right?
David Bowie. And he meant, what's really weird is I watched that movie like for the first time last night, and I already could catch some Illuminati stuff. He mentioned the number 923. 923 or 9 to 3 has Illuminati suggestions to it. That's all I'm saying. So I suggest, you know, looking into that further. 923. What is this number 23 that everybody talks about? You know, I've been digging and digging and digging. I can't find anything on it.
923?
Yeah, 923 is a Masonic or Illuminati number. September 23rd was, we thought that might have been the end, but you know, life goes on. I don't know. It's like now everybody, I don't know if you noticed, but there's this big push towards cryptocurrency. And then of course we have earthquakes happening every day so much. I don't know. It seems like it's, like I said before, it's sort of lining up with what was in the Bible about the beast system.
This is 923 solved.
Really?
Okay. Let me look. I can pull this in on here if I can get.
3 is a blend of the vibrations of the numbers 9, 2, and 3. Number 9 identifies with the universal spiritual laws, affectability, a higher point of view and broad perspective, impact, driving life as a positive case for others, non-congruity, generosity and selflessness, charity, and light working. Number 9 likewise signifies endings and conclusions. Number 2 reverberates with your instinct and knowledge, administration to others, strategy and intervention, duality, discovering equalization and agreement, receptivity and adoration, magnanimity, desire, affectability, confidence, trust, and your life reason and soul mission. Number 3 is the quantity of aiming ability, energy, help and consolation, correspondence, and self-expression, development, extension and the standards of expansion, showing, tolerant considering, gifts and aptitudes, and the energies of the ascended masters. Blessed messenger number 923 brings a message from your holy messengers that you are prepared and all around arranged to tackle your life reason with enthusiasm and exertion, with confidence, and trust that the heavenly attendants and ascended masters bolster and support you in your light working attempts. Give any fears or worries to the heavenly attendants for mending and get on with filling your spirit need. Utilize your inward imagination, in whatever structure reverberates with your spirit. Communicate and interface with your higher self. Try not to slight your normal innovativeness as you have your own particular one-of-a-kind endowments and abilities that are to be imparted to others. Draw out your uncommon capacities and let them sparkle. Tap into your regular inventive strengths and interface with your instinctive voice to convey further motivation to your life. Holy Messenger number 923 is a message to believe the direction from the holy messengers in all perspectives to do with your life mission and to keep up your great light work as you are helping other people by sparkling your affection and light on the world. Holy Messenger number 923 lets you know that your certainty and self-regard are being supported and your confidence and trust energized by the blessed messengers and ascended masters and the universal energies.
I like that.
I don't have... Now this is another thing. 9/23, Illuminati symbolism.
Yes.
And
yes. What is that?
This was from Tomorrowland, which I oddly enough saw yesterday.
Whoa. I have not seen that. Have you seen that, Troy?
No, I haven't.
It was good.
Tomorrowland.
I saw that yesterday. Last night.
No, I haven't seen that.
All right, guys, we have a recommended movie to watch, Tomorrowland. Go out there and watch it and see what you think.
Yeah. And I see it now. It was on his clock, 923. It was 923. Our future can be scared, and it's connected to 923. Or it says R922. And this is they're showing it in this thing. Now this one is in Elvin Almighty. And
hang on a second. Isn't 923? Wait, isn't 923 the start of Libra? Isn't that like a Libra thing?
But that was so weird. I just saw that movie last night, Tomorrowland. Wow. And he has a clock. What it is, it's about this man who's from another planet that's over here, and he's through this other planet. He's getting glimpses of the future, and we have so many days left, and it's a clock counting down the minutes, and the last part of it, I guess, is the hours and the minutes, 9:23, and it's showing there. And that was the scene in the movie.
I like that. I'm hoping I can catch that later on today. I could watch it. That's awesome. What do you think, Troy? About?
And here's another scene from the 12 Monkeys series showing 9:23.
Oh my goodness, the 12 Monkeys!
So
I have not seen that.
Yeah. 9:20. Let's see if I have this thing. I think they may be looking at a map or something. Yeah, they're looking at a map.
Okay.
But anyway, I won't. It's just showing. It's just a little clip. It's showing the different places where they're saying that it's where they're showing 9:23. So it's evidently a recurring theme in these type movies. Interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. Can I tell you what
September 23rd.
Yeah. Can I tell you what I thought was really interesting? There you said, of course, the 12 Monkeys. Whenever you remember you mentioned about Tomorrowland, it's funny you saw it yesterday. That's a synchronicity, is it not?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, because I rarely watch movies, and I just saw it. I thought, oh, it's pretty neat, and there it was. What about that?
And we talk about synchronicities a lot on our show. I was actually on a call with Rena one day, and we were talking about, fidget spinners because they were popular at that time. And all of a sudden there's a fidget spinner that comes on the television, and they're asking you to dial this number to order a bunch of them, I guess. So I thought that was kind of weird. And there's other little ones here and there. It's almost like I mentioned something to my mother. She said something about a video game, and then all of a sudden a video game, someone said video game on her phone. It's just weird how that happens sometimes. I've actually been I was washing the dishes and someone left the stove on, and I heard that song come in my head. It's that kid that won American Idol from Georgia. I think he was from Georgia. What was his name? Something about burning. So it was an indication to go check the stove. That's what happened. Sometimes I feel like it could be angels telling us in little ways, or it could be a push, in the right direction. With the synchronicities, I've read, Paul, that a synchronicity means that you're on the right track. You're on your desired path.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know. And it's really interesting. People, whether they're theoretical physicists or just regular people or whatever, and the same guy who was talking about the 2012 and all that kind of stuff, I think he made a good point in this respect, is that people have vertical kind of thinking. This goes before this, which goes before this, and which goes before this, and basically there's, and I kind of like the way he said it. It's kind of scary to think this way, but I like the way he said it. He said, if you think about it, there's really the only time there is the now. We spend most of our time thinking about the future. We work for future events. We plan for future events. We regret past events, or we relive with relish past events. We rarely live in the now, but the now is the only thing that actually exists. It's a very pragmatic way to look at it. The thing of control, and whether it's the Illuminati, whatever you want to say, their control system is the whole thing with dangling the carrot in front of the horse. It's this school, and you're going to get a good job, and you're going to have a great life, and everything is just a little bit more, well, you've got a bachelor's, now you need to get a master's, and well, now you got a master's, you've got this debt, you've got to pay it off, so you've got to take a job to start paying it off, but there'll be a better one down the road if you take some more classes. I mean, it's always in the future, and then you wake up one day and the future's come and gone, and you're on your way out, and you never got to the future.
Yes, and I've heard that actually. I read this on psychology.com a couple nights ago, when everyone was talking about time speeding up, because a lot of people in the Mandela world agree that time, I guess due to the Schumann resonance, perhaps the heartbeat of the Earth basically has sped up. So now it's like it's beating, instead of, like, let's say normally we'll say around 13 hertz or megahertz, whatever the rating is. Now it's like up to 30 and 40 every day.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so it's pretty crazy. They say we're losing about 7 minutes per hour as of right now. And I want to point out that, on psychology.com, they said if you close your open loops every day, like your unfinished business, if you work on closing those open loops, time will slow down for you. That's what they said. That was their suggestion.
Well, the whole thing, and there again, I wish I could think of his name. Started with the F, 115 or something. But anyway, he made some really good points, and I think one of them was, since about the 50s, when TV first entered, we've kind of gone brain dead. They say after you watch TV for so long, your brain kind of gets into a receptive hypnotic state with beta waves or alpha waves or whatever. I don't know, but you're very susceptible to any kind of subliminal programming, which there's certainly a lot of that.
Yes.
And I think that is another reason why things like the Mandela effect have such little impact. I think we have, between Worlds of Warcraft and graphic things on TV and this horrible thing and that horrible thing, we've kind of gotten thick-skinned. We just kind of.
I know. We just kind of tolerate it. Suck it up. They say suck it up and drive on, right? In the military.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to point out too was, there's this ice cream parlor, I guess, that's opening up. It's called Sweet Jesus, and they're advertising it. They're advertising it with this girl, and she looks like she's got like a cake. I guess it has red dye or something all over it, red icing. And it's all over her as if she's eating Jesus. It's really weird. It's bizarre.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, you should check that one out. And the other thing I want to point out about, EYA is very well known in the Mandela effect world, and she opened me up to the Bible changes. She's the one that inspired me to try to hold on to what we have. I got into that whole thing where I started hand scribing or hand copying the Bible word for word, starting with the New Testament. And I've gotten 24 out of 27 books hand done, and anyone can see them. They're up on my share drive. If you go to the link in the description and any one of my videos, just look for Brian McFarlane with an M-A-C, not MC. Look in the description and you'll see the Google Drive, the share drive. So you can look in there for the Bible stuffs if you want a copy of handwritten Bible. And it's free. You don't have to pay for it. I did that as for everyone. Okay. And EYA she did this thing. She says about the strong delusion. It's mentioned in Daniel 7:25. I'm sure most of you have heard of it in the King James. Daniel 7 verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. What do you think about that?
That's good.
In the relation of the Mandela effect, I think
to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand, and until a time and times and the dividing of time, which we're certainly seeing some divide. You know, one thing before I forget, I meant to mention it to you last time we talked, and I just thought it was so odd in Las Vegas, you know, where they had the shootings. Wasn't that at Mandalay Bay?
Yeah, Mandalay Bay. Was that an allusion to the Mandela effect?
Mandalay. I mean, is that a coincidence? What?
Exactly. That's what I was wondering myself. I've been wondering that myself. What about you, Troy? You remember the Mandalay Bay incident?
Of course I do.
Troy, you there?
Yeah. Of course I do. Yeah.
I just thought that was just really odd, that name.
I know.
Yeah, that's you know, I think that was going around for a little bit too, is the relationship of that whole incident to the Mandela.
I see someone on a Twitter post says, my husband suffers a lot from this Mandela effect. He never remembers our conversations the way they happened.
I don't know if that's a Mandela, but okay. Maybe selective hearing.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I laugh a lot with some of these. Oh my gosh, there's Michelle Plotty. She's doing a new Mandela effect video tomorrow, she says.
This is interesting. There is a video I hadn't seen, and I just looked. Mandela effect, Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas, new ascension. Let me see if I see any of the comments and see if they're saying anything that this is. It might not be coming up anymore. I'm not seeing comments. What's with the man? Could it be an indication that the official story not to be trusted, just another coincidence? I was just wondering if somebody.
So let's say the trumpets. I'm just going to say what?
I was just going to say, I think there was so many holes in that official story, though, that you know.
Yes, and there was a discrepancy they found with his cell phone charger or something like that. Didn't even match with the phone they discovered, and his garage, his key was in the car, not in the apartment. It was just kind of weird. Or not in the hotel.
Yeah, that was some weird. And a lot of people reported a ground shooter, and then there was another shooter at another hotel. And, you know, they said that the guns that were used were not really powerful enough to do what they said they did. And they were talking about, you know, he supposedly, like, took a little small hammer and busted out the windows, and they're supposed to be like hurricane proof, and it would have taken a sledgehammer, and you know, just on and on and on. So you know, I don't know. I just thought it was real interesting. You have the Mandela effect, and then Mandalay Bay.
You know what's interesting too? Somebody posted here too about the glitch when Reggie. You know, Reggie's that guy on the X-Files who supposedly created the X-Files, but Mulder and Scully have no memory of it, huh?
Yeah.
And he calls the company who created the Mandela effect G, capital G. I wonder if they're referring to Google.
They cut that. Did you notice that?
I did.
They jumped. They cut it. I thought he was going to say GE. That's what I thought, but they cut it.
Yeah.
But it could have been Google. I don't know.
Could have been. I mean, Google, you know those machines that they have at CERN, those big black cubes that they have that are D-Wave computers?
Yeah.
CERN has them, and so does Google.
Google's got it. Is that, I mean, what was, like I say, I thought that was just such a little benign, innocent deal that you were, attempting to do with the X-Files to get cut and censored for 90 days. So is all that stuff monitored? I mean, how does that work?
It is. They monitor it live. Like, it's almost like the AI is listening for anything that sounds like it could be matching what they're playing at that time. In fact, they didn't even flag me until about 30 minutes into the show. And at that time, I just switched streams, right? But they decided to block all 3 worldwide. But at least my people who watch me on a regular basis got to see it. It was like 76 viewers. And I know it's not fair for the people on the West Coast because they live they're 3 hours behind us, obviously. So I figured I'd share it with everyone, even around the world, who wanted to see it. And I was going to take it down immediately after, but I just wanted everyone to see it. They could have told me, hey, please remove this video. If you don't, we'll block you. But no, they just went ahead and blocked me. So I know other people are kind of outraged with Google and YouTube as well. But
well, and the thing is that coming from a broadcast background myself, if we ever played anything that was copywritten by any other artist or whatnot, they would simply just they'd blank out the conversation between the affected areas, so they wouldn't take the whole thing down. They would just simply it would be no audio.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what they should have done. Just cancel the audio, and that would have been fine. So,
and something else I've noticed, Brian, I'm sure you have too, and Troy, is I've been doing like I do a mixed bag. I look at conspiracy theories on this, or whether it's did we go to the moon, or Sandy Hook, or whatever,
sure,
Harvard or JFK, whatever it is, and I'll find some good audio equipment on audio clips on YouTube, and go back, and many times they're gone.
I mean, once you find them, they're gone. You've actually put the alert out that they missed something, so you did the research for them.
Yeah, you just go back, and there's one I had a hard time trying to find. It was about the Act of 1877 that basically Congress did that turned the United States into a corporation. And it went into depth about it and talked about some different things. And, I was able to find, to find it again, but I had a really hard time. It's like they changed the search. You search one time with these parameters, and then that doesn't get you there anymore. And you have to keep.
You have to adjust the search to accommodate what you're looking for. I know. Along those same lines, let's take it a little bit further. It's funny because I don't know if you've seen this yet, Paul. If you look at your Declaration of Independence now too, this is pretty well known with through the community, Mandela community. If you recall, just think in your mind of what the Declaration of Independence actually looks like, and then you go look at the document firsthand. You'll see exactly what I mean. It's nothing like what you had remembered.
No.
Look it up. Yeah. Look it up. You'll see what I mean. Type right now and take a little bit of time and look up the Declaration of Independence. You remember the verbiage and the words that actually were the header. And just look at the header. The header will tell it all, because if you know the Declaration of Independence, you know, it was iconic. You can't, you know, not remember that. I mean, it was all over everything. And now you look at it, it's not that anymore.
Well, I remember ensure domestic tranquility, not insure like
Not
an
insure. Yeah, exactly. Like you're going to insure someone's car.
Yeah.
It was always ensure. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
We the people of the United States of America.
Yeah,
that one, I think it was the preamble. In order to form a more perfect union. I had to memorize that when I was like in the 3rd grade or something.
Oh,
yeah, I think we all did.
So we talk about Mandela effects. We try to find some that are more convincing than others, and you know, one of the things, I guess probably the biggest Mandela effect. If you ask anyone on the street, okay, was it Berenstain or Berenstain Bears or whatever, they're going to tell you it was Berenstain. Hands down.
I got one bigger than that. You know, we all know Santa Claus is a fictional character, but you know, the thing is that he lived in an area that was not fictional, and that's the North Pole. And on every, you know, map and every globe, the Arctic was always depicted. The North Pole was always there. If you look on any map or globe ever, it no longer is there. It doesn't exist. In fact, now Santa Claus apparently is on some kind of little dinghy somewhere, hanging on for dear life.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, Troy, because, you know, to me, that would be something that environmentalists and these global warming people would have jumped on and said, look, y'all melted the blank to blank North Pole. The North Pole is gone because of global warming.
Yep.
And they don't say that. It's just never been, you know, it's never been the way we remember it, a solid frozen thing year round.
Absolutely. We had the Arctic and we had the Antarctic. Both of those were depicted on every map, every globe. You always saw the huge ice mass. It was massive. If there was any indication that this thing was melting at that alarming rate where it's no longer there, I think that would have been like newsworthy.
Oh yeah, that would have been something Gore would have jumped all over.
You know, and it's funny because I've mentioned that to quite a few people, and you know, it's that blank stare. You know, that blank stare, and then moving on, and that's you know, it's a dead giveaway, I guess, in that sense of, you know, I know you got it. I just called you on your you know, on your nonsense, and you know, now what are you going to say about it? Now what are you going to do? Get mad at me because I've already heard it before? Go ahead, I'm ready. Let's hear it. Let's hear why I'm not a cartographer. Maybe I should go contact some of these people why, you know, they didn't put it on there, because I know it was there, and so does everyone else, and that's exactly where, you know, I mean, come on, we celebrate Christmas every year, and that's where they claim that Santa Claus is from. Where does he live? What, in the water? Come on, man. Why would they say he's there? Why would they say that he's now in Antarctica?
Well, speaking
because
of
he was never there. He was always in the North Pole with that little candy cane thing, whatever. You know, that's how they depict him. Even though it's fictional, I get it. But the fact is that it no longer exists. It's just water on every single map. So come on, guys.
Another one, yeah, that's a good one too. Christmas. Speaking of that, how many of you remember on the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me or sent to me? Which one is it?
It's always gave to me.
Yeah,
gave, and now it's sent. Here's another one for you.
They're mailing it now with like FedEx or something?
No, for all you listeners. How many of you remember the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas?
Of course.
All through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. You know that poem?
Sure.
If you look at the poem, the original poem now says "settled our brains."
Yeah, that's that. No. Yeah. I saw that too. That's
isn't that weird?
That reminded me about the song that you told us about the left side brain. So.
Yes. You want me to play it for you guys? You want to play it for you?
I don't know. You get a copyright. Is this a copyright strike in the making?
Well, there's a certain time frame. I think it's like 10 seconds you can share. It's.
Yeah, I know. Don't you know? I wouldn't put that out there just yet. You might want to say that for something magnificent.
It's fine. I'm on a new channel, so the strikes are reset on this channel.
And
I mean, everything now is a copyright strike. You sing happy birthday and you're done.
Yeah, everyone is saying on the left side brain, not brains. It's called Hey Soul Sister. I'll do the one with the lyric video so I don't get in trouble. It's in the very first part of it.
Your lipstick stains on the front lobe of my left side brains. I know
Okay, you heard him? He said
Yeah.
brains.
Left side brains.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So what are they trying to tell us?
Well, I mean, you're seeing a lot of this too. You're having the addition of S's, removal of them. Who knows what that is? That just could be. I mean, for me, that's not. I mean, it's of course alarming. Don't get me wrong. I mean, these are little things, logos, little hashes and dashes that are missing and popping up and things. For me, personally, these affect me. Yes, I get it. I know. I'm more of a historical, guy where I look at, the transition of how things came to be and stuff. That was my forte. So, I know a lot about that, and I'm an artist as well. So I recognize a lot of the changes. I'm a human being. I understand that, I'm subject to, discretion of things being changed. I can't say for certain on 100% of all these things because I didn't trace them. I mean, you see things every day. You don't think to trace things. You know what I mean? So you see things. It's like, yeah, it doesn't look right. And I'll give you a prime example. Look at the Circle K logo, right? So, I was, I'm an Arizona native. I was born there, and so I know a lot about that. We used to go down the Circle K back when I was younger, and I knew this because my uncle used to take me there, and I every time I walked up, I'm like, that's a Circle K. I know it, and it was always a rounded K. Now it's kind of squared off and everything too. So that right there, just alone seeing that, it's like, okay, that's changed. Have they done anything recent? No, they haven't. It's always been like that. So I know that that's certainly something that, has changed, but impactfully, that doesn't really affect me in that kind of sense. I mean, it does, don't get me wrong, but I look for the things that really affect, like, globally, like how we were all brought up and how life has changed because of the things that have shifted and the major roles that have been adjusted throughout this new timeline. So I mean, that's why you're getting all these new these little changes here and there of this character played a key role. Now this guy wasn't exactly what you thought. Now there's new players in this whole event that had something to do with the outcome here. Well, that's what I specialize in, and I do see things like what you guys are saying, and they don't impact me as heavily as the things that I've studied and took as such an endearing impact on learning these events. That being said, is that I see it, but like little word anomalies, like Thriller. You have Vincent Price saying, "Hey, y'alls." Now, well, I know he never said that. This is like the new timeline where he's saying, "Hey, y'alls." Well, I mean, Vincent Price, come on. He's not, you know what I mean? He's, it was never like that. And it's more of a Southern term. It's kind of like the word finna, which was like a slang word. It's like the Ebonic thing of, like I'm going to. That was never like one of the, that was never a word. It was always a slang. But apparently now it's actually a real word that's been used throughout history.
Finna, right? Finna, like I'm fit, like I'm fixing to.
I'm going to, yeah.
Yeah, and now it's called finna, and it's always been there since what, the 1800s?
Yeah, it's been there for a long time. So that's it's one of these words that's been around for a long time. I'm finna, and my memory, my reality is that it was always a slang. It's just I'm finna, and I've known I know many different people from many different cultures, and they say things. Look, we don't always speak grammatically correct. We say things, private company where we just, we don't speak correctly. We have our own, verbiage. And so that being said, is that we say things that aren't, Webster dictionary approved. And so, we know that that is not approved. It's never been inside any kind of dictionary. But now the things that have, been slang are now proven to be like real words somehow. And
Dawn P in the audience, and she says beeves. Has anyone ever heard of beeves? Like
Beeves?
B-E-E-V-E-S.
Beeves?
It's the plural word for beef. Like beef, it's what's for dinner.
No. It's always been just beef. You say beef, it's beef, not beeves.
That's so weird.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's, I know, right? Yeah. Is that really true? It's now beeves?
Yeah, definitely.
Come on.
Definitely, Paul. Thank you for having us on. And Teresa, before we go,
tell everybody how they can get to your channel.
Okay, but before we go, real quick, I'll tell them. Teresa Lynch points out she lives in Vegas. She was there at close to I think 6 blocks away. She told me from where the Mandalay Bay happened. She wanted me to tell you, and so yeah, thanks Teresa for that. And
she's doing a great job, by the way.
She is. She is the residue hunting queen. If you guys,
we love Teresa. She's wonderful.
For anything, she could find it.
Well, she's turning out to be quite a star, getting on all these programs, different programs too.
Exactly. But I never thought that I'd be making so many videos. It's just these things. The changes, they happen on a daily basis, it seems. And there are some it's so weird how me and Teresa have this established relationship where I don't know, we have a relationship where she'll find something and let me know about it. And then later on, I find something, but then she finds it 2 months later. It's so weird, how this all happens. And I'm like, you told me about that, Teresa, 2 months ago. Did you know that? She's like, no, I just found it now. And it's so weird how the Mandela effect works. And
wow.
It's not a memory loss issue. We all have decent memories, I would say. And
let me point this out here too, guys. Again, with these speculations and theories that are out there, there's so many. But if we go back to the source, and we just go biblically, which I think a lot of us really are reaching out for some kind of answers and seeing the anomalies that have happened and taken place. One thing that I think we could take some solace in is that if there is truth in this 144,000, maybe there's a count that we need to be doing. Maybe I think our job is to reach out, find these people. We're not out here to fearmonger anybody. Okay, just want to let you know you can take this with a grain of salt. If you're not experiencing this, that's great. Go about your business, and there's no need to jump into this because it doesn't make sense. And maybe something down the line will trigger you, and you'll join in, and it'll make more sense. I don't know what's going to happen, but this being my point, guys, is that if there is any truth to the 144,000 of what we call the Life Warriors, Enoch's bloodline. Okay, I think that it's our duty, it's our job to reach out to those people that are having those difficult times in enduring this anomaly, this supernatural effect, and we have to do it. We may be putting our targets on our back, but it's something that I think that we are required to do, and we're gonna get flack. We're gonna get the trolls. We're gonna get people saying that we are crazy. Look, I get it, but you have to endure. It's what's happening. We're not doing this to scare anybody. We're not out there trying to say, hey, you have to believe this is going on, because for you, it may not be happening, but for us, it really, really is. And it's it's a terrifying, and really, as a whole, it's something that we didn't wish for, guys, and just at least grant us this ability to do what we need to do. If you have any questions or anything, we'll be certain to go ahead and address that, but don't come after us in that attack mode, because you have nothing better to do. We'll speak with you logically. If it doesn't make sense, we get it. Look, we're not here to go ahead and push anything on anyone, but for those that are being affected, we should go. You should definitely take a look at Brian's channel. Talk to the people here. We're here for you. We're reaching out to you in that respect. And we'll address those that don't see it in a kind, polite, very matter-of-fact, logical way. You know, we're not here to offend anybody, but the fact is that those are dealing with this. Let me tell you, this could be life threatening. And you know, I personally am here for you. I'll set aside some time. You can get in touch with me through Brian and through some of the other people. Teresa, Paul, you're a great outlet, and I appreciate the time to allow us to talk about this. You know, so definitely, I sincerely thank you.
And definitely, you guys are not alone out there. That's our main message that we're trying to preach to the choir here. You know, we're not alone in this. We have each other. So I think in the end, I think that's the final message that the X-Files was trying to say. Even though stuff is going on around us, we still have each other. And you can get to my channel. Just look on YouTube, Brian McFarlane, MacFarlane. The other channel that I have just simply right now for doing live broadcast, because I'm on a 90-day ban from doing the X-Files. It's Mandela Effect Awareness. It's kind of difficult to find, but trust me, I'll make a link down in my videos to link this official video. So yeah, just look for the one Brian McFarlane. You'll find it. There's like, I have 6,500 subscribers. Go ahead and like and sub the channel, and it helps keep us going. And we'll have definitely good guests coming on. We had I Am Laszlo last night.
We got Lone Eagle coming on next week as well.
Yep. So there's definitely we have a family like a Mandela family. So we'd love you to be a part of it. So thank you, Paul. Thank you for your time.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate it, Paul.
And I'll tell you, like I told Mark Sargent, I believe you're doing God's work, and more power to you. And like I always say, you know, reality is not stranger than you imagine. Reality is stranger than you can imagine.
Stranger than fiction, just like the movie.
Yeah.
Don't live in fear, guys. Live in love, and we're here for you.
Right. And Lord willing, I'll be back next Saturday with Strange World. Thank you, my friends.
All right, Paul.
Talk to you next time.
As for my listeners out there in the audience, go ahead and tune into AM1490, okay? Thanks.
It's been my pleasure, guys. Thank you so much.
Have a great day, and God bless.